Mr. President Pro Tem.
All right, we're going to substitute the prayer from this morning, colleagues. This is just a little bit of a challenge up here, but it is, though, and I'm going to tell you why. Earlier today, a few things happened in this chamber. There was the tenor and the tone in the chamber. We also had, of course, an incident that occurred in the chamber, and the Senate President just had enough, and he went home. He went home. He texted me. He asked that, the work of the Senate must continue, and so we're just going to have to try to I'm going to do the best I can here with this situation, and I'm just going to ask the clerk to call the roll. All right. So with 38 members present, and and a quorum being present, we are now in order, and we have messages from the House. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 384, Delegate Lehman, Maryland Disability Service Animal Program Established Rules. House Bill 757, Delegate Kaiser, Professional and Volunteer Firefighter Innovative Cancer Screening Fund Program funding.
Oh. April Fools!
I saw you. The President Pro Tem committed to the bit, he committed to the bit.
Mr. President?
Yes, recognized Senator from Montgomery County.
I texted Leah to say you're on your way home.
She was like, no, turn him back. Oh, yeah.
Mr. President.
Where else would you rather be right now? No, yes.
It's okay not to be okay.
Thank you. Well done, President Pro Tem. Well done. All right. Onwards to work. Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Well done. I think we got there. Yeah. All right. Yes, I recognize Senator from Chair of the Committee.
Yeah, Mr. President, the only thing about the sequence was that people found it plausible. Like people were like, no way, there's no way that happened. Anyway,
just a little bit of truth in it, right? That's always the best. All right. In all seriousness, we do have a long day today, so not many of us are going home very, very soon. But we're gonna do the best we can this afternoon. We got a lot of big stuff to do. Are we ready? Do we have any introductions? Do we want to jump right in? Introductions? If not, all right. So we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We've got a message from the House. These are first reading of House bills. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 384, Delegate Lehman, Maryland Disability Service Animal Program Established Rules. House Bill 757, Delegate Kaiser, Professional Volunteer
Majority
Firefighter.
Leader moves so we consider the reading of the bills. They will be referred to the Rules Committee. This is yeas and nays. Number 2, clerk will read the bills.
All right. Senate Bill 5, Senator Lamb, Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, state-based young adult
Majority
health
Leader moves so we
insurance.
consider the reading of the bills. These are yeas and nays, passed by the House. We've got a message from the House, number 30. Clerk will read the message.
House Bill 351, the Speaker, Maryland Consolidated Capital Bond Loan of 2025, Budget and Taxation.
Okay, bill will be referred to the Budget and Taxation Committee, the capital budget. We've got another message from the House, number 31. Clerk will read the bills.
House Bill 503, the Speaker, Housing Development Act, Rules. House Bill 911, Delegate Guyton, Real Property Landlord and Tenant Family Child Care Homes, Rules.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They're referred to the Rules Committee. All right, let's go ahead and start with where we were. We've got some big stuff first, and let's see how far we can get through it. Let's go to third reading. These are Senate bills. Actually, if we could do a quorum call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 42 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We're going to go to third reading calendar 56. 56. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 429, the President Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act. This bill is on third reading.
All right, Senate Bill 429 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the
okay, hang on. Okay.
call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 429 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 758, Senator Kagan, Condominiums and Homeowners Associations, Election, Financial Statements, and Enforcement.
Senate Bill 758 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 758, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 784, the President Annual Corrective Bill.
Senate Bill 784 is on third reading, final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 784, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Is that the last one on that one? Nope. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 909, Senator Hester, Energy Resources Adequacy and Planning Act.
Senate Bill 909 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 43 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 909, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to third reading calendar number 22. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 504, the Speaker Excellence in Maryland Public Schools Act.
All right, House Bill 504 is on third reading for final passage. Recognize the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is to simply ensure that there is a level playing field for girls' sports at the high school level by allowing only biological girls to play on a high school interscholastic or intramural varsity or junior varsity team that is designated as a girls', female, or women's team or sport. We want to protect the crucial role that women's sports have played in the development of young women for a long time, but particularly over the last 50 years since Title IX came into being. This amendment would protect hard-earned opportunities for girls to compete in organized high school sports fairly and safely, to earn athletic awards and scholarships, and to have opportunities beyond the track or the field or the court. My motivation for introducing this amendment starts at home. I have a daughter. She's 12. She'll be 13 soon. She plays soccer She's tried some other sports as well, but soccer seems to be her favorite. But my wife, who I met at Salisbury University, was a star, I'm going to call her a star track and field performer in high school and at Salisbury. Not really sure what she saw in me, maybe still not quite sure, but athletics was a big part of her upbringing and the opportunities that she had as well. Women have fought long and hard to earn equal athletic opportunities. I don't have to tell that to the women I know in this room. Title IX was a real revelation that has brought about needed and positive changes since 1972. Before Title IX, less than 300,000 girls played high school sports compared to 1.7 million boys. By the end of the 20-teens, nearly 3.5 million girls were participating in high school sports compared to 4.5 million boys. So the proportions changed significantly. There's been immense progress societally, and now female athletes are actually viewed in many ways more favorably, more positively than a lot of male athletes. There's not nearly as many negatives surrounding a lot of female athletes, and even Madison Avenue and the advertisers have figured out that women athletes are among the most marketable of stars. But if there's not fairness in the field of play, it inherently impacts the performance and safety on the track or the court or the field. And the trend of people who are not biologically female trying to participate in biologically female sports has picked up. I think when there were initial stories in the 20-teens about it, and even now, people try to dismiss it and say it's just anecdotal. There's more and more stories, more and more we're seeing that there's a battle over making sure that women's spaces, but particularly women's sports, where a man has a biological advantage, generally speaking, in particular sports. Some sports can be co-ed or can be performed co-ed, but there's a point to, especially at the higher levels of competition, where there's women's basketball, there's women's volleyball, there's women's track and field. There's a reason for those distinctions, and there's many others, of course. There's a reason for those distinctions. And we've seen it play out where there have been tremendous negative side effects to allowing people who are not biologically female to go into those spaces. In 2021 in Connecticut, they had gotten to the point where male athletes had so dominated girls' high school track that at one point, 2 male athletes, biologically male athletes, who identified as trans female athletes, won 15 women's high school track championships that had previously been held by 9 different girls. Chelsea Mitchell, for example, in Connecticut, lost 4 championship races in a row to a male athlete in 2021 after having been the champion the year before. There were many stories like that in Connecticut. There's actually ongoing litigation about that. In 2022, it's not just about losing competitive opportunities, although that's a big problem and it's not fair. In 2022, 17-year-old Peyton McNabb was playing high school volleyball in North Carolina. She was struck by a spiked ball during a volleyball game from someone on the opposing team that was biologically male and much stronger. As a result, she suffered a concussion and neck injury. Of course, all student athletes face the potential of injury, but when we knowingly put young women in harm's way against much more biologically stronger people who should not be participating with biological women in a woman's sport, we put them in physical danger. And we want to prevent, this amendment will help prevent stories like that here in Maryland. Up in Massachusetts, in last year, and it's still being fully gone through now, but there were 2 players in basketball, women's basketball players, seriously injured by a young man who was identifying as a trans woman and playing a sport and playing basketball, which is a physical sport. So there's a lot of these stories. And what's happening is this movement that I think culturally, societally, there's become a bit of a pushback. But the idea that you can just decide you're going to participate in a sport where you are biologically male and it's a women's sport, it has the potential to set back 50 years of progress since Title IX. So, Mr. President, what my amendment does, very simply, would be to protect high school sports that are designated for women, whether they're the varsity or junior varsity sports. It's narrowly drawn to avoid getting into a lot of other issues. It could be broader. There's been bills before introduced in this body that have been broader. This is a much more narrow focus, similar to a bill, or it's nearly identical to the bill that was introduced earlier this session in the Senate. And so I would move the amendment, Mr. President, because this is an opportunity for us to stand with our daughters and our sisters and our friends and say, let's just make sure we keep women's spaces, women's sports spaces separated and safe. And so I'll move the amendment, Mr. President.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to thank my colleague for giving me the amendment ahead of time. While I personally support the concept expressed in the amendment, this amendment, colleagues, is not germane to the bill. And as such, I must ask the body to resist it. We currently have under consideration in our committee SB 588, Fairness in Girls Sports, of which I am a co-sponsor and a strong advocate. However, the attempt to insert this bill is procedurally incorrect and again, not germane to this bill. And while there are many of us who feel strongly about this issue, I ask you to respect the committee process and to resist this amendment.
All right, on the amendment, recognize the senator from the 38th District.
Thank you. I am the sponsor of the bill and of the Fairness in Girls Sports bill. And I recall talking to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, some that made it clear that while they might not be willing to co-sponsor the legislation, that given the opportunity, they would support it. So I wanted to share with you just personally and also some words directly from a Stephen Decatur athlete. I am a Stephen Decatur graduate. I played the #1 tennis spot for Stephen Decatur High School for 4 years in the #1 doubles position. And I can tell you that being able to say that you played in the #1 position puts you in a better position when colleges start to look at you for possible scholarship opportunities. And I believe that being able to play in that position did allow me, was one of the reasons that I was able to receive a scholarship, part of that for playing tennis at the Catholic University of America, where I played in the #3 singles position and the #1 doubles position for 4 years. And that part of my life, the tennis, the athletics, is such an important part. And I do know, looking, that if somehow I had been bumped from that #1 position in high school, perhaps by a biological male who was stronger than me, that would have affected the scholarship I received. And that scholarship, by the way, was a lifeline for our family as far as paying for my education. So I wanted to share that from a personal perspective, more from the scholarship side of it. But there's another important part of this that I just would like my colleagues to take into account, and that's the safety. That's the safety of our student female athletes. These are the words from Brooke Bergquist. She is a senior at Stephen Decatur High School in Berlin. And she plays volleyball, basketball, and tennis. And these are her words. While competing in a travel volleyball tournament last year, my team had a match with an opposing team whose roster included a biological male in the starting lineup. Now, while the other team was warming up, my teammates and I immediately noticed the strength and speed with which the biological male hit the volleyball. It was apparent that the skills of the biological male surpassed anyone else on the court. My teammates and I were not only intimidated, but we feared for our safety. I will repeat that. We feared for our safety. There is very little time to react to a volleyball when it is spiked over the net, and if you are not prepared and if you do not have the reaction time to get underneath the ball, you are in jeopardy of getting hit. My teammates and I simply did not have an answer for the hits from the biological male. Needless to say, we did not win our match against that team. She goes on to write, and this is a senior in high school, she goes on to write, as I reflect upon that time, I believe that my teammates and I were already defeated when we walked onto the court. First, our confidence was struck down because we knew we were not ready for the level of competition that the biological male brought. While our skill set may not match, while our skill set may match, our strength did not. Secondly, we played with fear, which is not a winning recipe. My teammates and I had never experienced such speed and force in hitting, and we were concerned about bigger issues than just winning that match. I realized that this encounter did not occur in the public school arena, but it could without proper legislation in place. And I just wanted to share with my colleagues that it was listening to the other side and the opposition. I saw the emotion on the other side. And the other side contended that the Fairness in Girls Sports Bill discriminates against trans athletes. But that could not be further from the truth. The trans athletes can play boys, co-ed, and intramural sports. Allowing biological boys to play girls' sports discriminates against biological girls. And I believe Maryland's girls deserve to play girls' sports on an even playing field, and that's the only reason that this is being offered. That's why it's called the Fairness in Girls Sports Act. So I appreciate my colleagues letting me share what's behind the amendment and that it's only focused on the fairness in girls sports. And I support the amendment and urge a yay vote.
All right. On the amendments, recognize the senator from the 43rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very familiar being in a room or a body of people that are making decisions about my life or the people that I love who may not have had those experiences themselves. And I'm very mindful as the only out woman in this body that the fights that we've had in the Maryland General Assembly over the years to ensure fairness for our families and our children is, again, something that takes time and it takes the voices of people impacted and their allies. I am rising because we don't have such a person that I was fortunate to be with 6 other people like myself when we passed marriage equality. And I stand recognizing that relative to my transgendered brothers and sisters and others, that I exercise privilege in that the body that I was born in, that I live in, that I'm comfortable in is the one that others see, and that I don't experience any discrimination based on that. So I feel an obligation and an opportunity, which rarely comes, where I can speak as a part of a privileged class. So because those voices aren't heard, I want to share, as my colleague did, the testimony that was submitted by a student, a Maryland student, Rika, and some of their experiences. I played on a co-ed recreational soccer team for 6 years straight as the only female player on the team. I was excluded, I was bullied, ridiculed, and harassed for 6 years. I remember being in gym class in middle school and being excluded from groups playing different sports as a girl trying to play with boys. So again, what is a girl's sport and what is a boy's sport? I told my gym teacher this, and they simply told me, pick another sport. A friend told me that her girls' volleyball team had to wear leftover men's jerseys from 8 years prior, as they didn't secure funding to get their own jerseys. I had another friend told me about being at a statewide diving championship and seeing female divers getting hundreds of points lower than their male counterparts because the judges were trained to recognize proper movements on a male body. Sexism is an issue that is so much bigger than your assigned gender at birth. It is an issue of perception. Women are perceived as less successful and weak, causing them to get lower scores and less funding, as well as less respect. If you want girls' sports to be more fair, there are other ways to do it. But it is my belief that the people who don't want transgender women in sports and pass bills, I would recommend if they were focused on true fairness in girls' sports, they should instead focus on providing more support for women in these other spaces. It is not enough to allow people to question women's sports. It's not enough to allow people to question women in women's sports. In not allowing transgender girls to participate in women's sports, we continue a long history of policing women's bodies. If she is too fast or not fast enough, she is a target. If she is too tall or not tall enough, she is a target. If she is too athletic or not athletic enough, she is a target. We are promoting a culture that allows people to question even the assigned gender at birth of other people as fair game. Reasoning as to why she is better or worse than others. She's referring to the fact that women who are born female have experienced individuals questioning their gender status using these laws. In passing these measures, we would be setting a dangerous precedent that impacts all women in sports and how all women are perceived, and subjects her to more intense scrutiny. And this will not just happen to transgendered women. Thank you, Mr. President and my colleagues. I will not be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, recognize the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to ask for a roll call on this important issue. Women's sports is something we should protect. Women's spaces is something we should protect. In a lot of ways, for some of the very reasons of discrimination that we just heard about from my friend from Baltimore City. Just in closing here, the New York Times came out with a poll earlier this year, and it showed that 79% of those surveyed answered that men, biological men, should not compete in women's sports. It was posed as this the question: thinking about transgender female athletes, meaning athletes who were male at birth but currently identify as female, do you think they should or should not be allowed to compete in women's sports? 79% said they should not. That breaks down to 94% of Republicans, 67% of Democrats, and 64% of independent or something else that answered that they favored making sure that women's sports were a safe place. And that's on all sports. So I would imagine the number might be higher if we said, hey, we're especially at the high school level, the formative years for so many. So, Mr. President, I would just ask the body to support this. The country, this is moving in this direction. People have realized that we need some common sense barriers to protect certain places that are special and set aside. And so I ask the body for the support, and my vote, of course, will be green. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, on the amendment, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? Chair, in explaining his vote, just very briefly, want to note, while I certainly know there are many who have a philosophical or different belief on this, I just encourage those to have conversations with young people who are in this situation and trying to figure it out. As a straight white male, I remember being a teenager and how hard it was, and just how difficult it was with no other barriers in front of me. And when I've had conversations with transgendered young people who are trying to find themselves and live in a community, the pain and suffering that so many of them have felt, feeling out of place and not having a spot in this world, is unbelievably painful. And so when I think about how we should be educating kids, it should be about what is in the best interest of children. How can we make everyone feel more comfortable? And that is my perspective on this issue, and so I am strongly in opposition to this amendment. With that, the clerk will take the call. With 27 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 504 is hereby ordered. Excuse me. I'm sorry, we got to vote for it, don't we? It's third. All right, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk. Oh, excuse me, yes, recognize the senator from the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we all come from different places and represent different districts, but the one thing we all have in common is our education. And so when it comes to something like the blueprint, it's easy to see how there can be 47 different opinions. But one thing is for certain, it takes a village to raise a child, then the schoolhouse is a direct extension. Through this bill, we have continued our support for community schools, increasing the teacher pipeline and ensuring we have qualified and capable team addressing the needs of our students. I want to thank all of those who, through dialogue, debate, and discussion, allows us to converge and agree on this plan, and as such has made it clear the value we place on our children's future in the state of Maryland. Finally, through this bill, we have solidified the goal of the AIB, and that is to make fact-based, decision-driven, informed decisions that result in the educational success for each and every child. And Mr. President, if the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, then the people who teach our children control the world's destiny. I thank you for your support.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 504, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's take up executive nominations, if we may. This is Report 8. Clerk will read the report.
the Senate Executive Nominations Committee reports favorably on the attached appointment and recommends that the Senate of Maryland advise and consent to this appointment. Clarence K. Lamb, Chair.
Recognizing Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This calendar number 8 contains only one appointment. This is at the request of the governor's office, so that the Inspector General for the Maryland Department of Health can be sworn in with other folks that will be sworn in by the governor tomorrow. So this calendar just contains the one appointee. They were heard this past Monday, and all of the remaining appointees from this past Monday's hearing will be heard later this week, or will be voted upon later this week in report number 9.
And just to be clear, so, and the senators, do we take it up now, or?
I think we can take it up now, unless.
Is there? Let's see if there's any objection. Are there any objections to taking up this nominee currently on report number 8? Any objections? If not, all right, let's go ahead and take it up now. Question is, will the Senate advise and consent on the nominations of the executive for report number 8? If there's no discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, the Senate advising consents affirmatively to the nominations of the executive. All right, let's go to third reading calendar number 57. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 931, Senator Feldman, Public Utilities, Generating Stations, Generation, and Sitting Renewable Energy Certainty Act.
Senate Bill 931 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 35 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 931, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to calendar 58. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 937, the present electric and gas emissions reductions, rate regulations, cost recovery, infrastructure planning, renewable energy, profile standards, energy assistance programs, Generation Energy Act.
All right, Senate Bill 937 is on third reading for final passage. Recognize the senator from District 7.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to get up and talk about this. One part of this bill I don't like is the waste to energy that's been taken out of it. It's going to affect my district because it's a floor fight we've had for many years. Wheelabrator in Baltimore City, the incinerator, where are they going to take that trash? Most probably Baltimore County. They're going to bring it to my landfill in my district. And you know, I've argued it many times. We had fights, ironically, over here on the Republican side of the aisle. So my colleagues they wanted it out of the standard, and I'd always fight to keep it in there because to me, you're killing two birds with one stone. You're getting rid of trash, and you're producing electricity. And I understand some people argue about the smokestack, what's coming out of it. Well, you know what? We have technology to make that smoke cleaner. Let's figure out what it's going to take. If it takes more money to put cleaner scrubbers on there to make that smoke clean, let's do it. But where are we going to take that trash? Think about it. What we're going to do now is we're going to take it, we're going to have to drive it further. Either to Baltimore County in my district. Once you cap out Eastern Sanitary Landfill, you're going to take it even further. They're going to have to truck it down to Virginia. Think about how many trucks are going to be on the highway. They're going to clog up our roads with tractor trailers hauling trash to Virginia. The diesel emissions those trucks are going to be emitting, they're going to put it on barges in some cases. It's just, to me, that's the one part of this bill that it just boggles my mind that we have a way of getting rid of trash and creating electricity, and we're going to do away with it. And it's going to, what to me is put a bigger impact on the environment with the hauling of this trash. You know, we talk about the impact of roads. Again, think about these trucks, 80,000 pounds hauling trash, 100 miles down to Virginia now, and I think it's what, 60 to 80 trucks a day go into Wheelabrator taking trash. Now they're going to have to drive them to Virginia or further up into Baltimore County, maybe Carroll County, other counties, landfills. That's my issue with this bill. Mr. President, I'm sorry to see that. You know, I know that some people have said, hey, this is not necessarily does not shut Wheelabrator down. Wheelabrator can stay open. If they can run profitably, they can stay open. But I just think that it's a way of again, killing two birds with one stone. It's this issue in this world. You know, we burn a lot of trash. You know, I look here, I look at all these trash cans on the floor. Ironically, we don't have any recycle bins. Most of this trash is paper, and it always boggles my mind we don't have recycle bins here. We're always throwing paper away. But, you know, it's something we have to deal with as a society, is getting rid of our trash, and here's a way to do it, and we're now taking it out of this standard. So with that, I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a real opportunity this afternoon to hear a lot about these issues in depth. And sometimes when people on, I think, either side of the aisle, a lot of times it's us on the floor, on the Republican side, that get up and really go into questioning bills that are coming out of committee or issues. I know that there's a temptation to think it's just kind of putting things out there, or trying to, you know, trying to gum up the works or whatever. But I really sat there and enjoyed the opportunity to learn about these issues more. And, you know, I think there's some things in this bill that are positive. And I know there was an attempt made to try to do something both for immediate, middle range, and long. But as we discussed the bill and as we had amendments that were offered, my view in this is that we could have done a lot more for more immediate relief. And I also feel like there's been a bit of it's a tortured kind of thing where we're trying to, the body is having to try to contort this bill to get so many things into it because there's so many different touchstones we have to hit because of, in some cases, it's groups that are so loud about certain issues. And other things, it's being defensive of past policy that's clearly caused problems for our state's energy, accessibility, and affordability. And I don't think this bill completely hits the mark of really addressing the need for affordable, reliable energy. And it's not a mystery. We need more natural gas. We need to revisit ways to get power plants back online. We need to decide if we're really going to be an energy generation state versus being an energy power line state. And so I'm left in a situation where there is a little bit of ratepayer relief in the sense that there's a couple of small payments this year. So you could say, oh, I'll vote for it and say I provided some relief. I feel like I want to be honest and say we really could have done a lot more immediate. And we could recognize the failure of our policies as it relates to RPS and some of the other things that we've done. So, Mr. President, my vote is going to be red. I think there could be members of our caucus that vote green, and I think that's a fine vote too. And so I respect everybody's view on it, and I'm sure it may be the same on the other side of the aisle as well. But for me, I feel like it's a little bit of an opportunity missed. But I know there was a lot of work done on it, and I know everybody in here wants to get to a good place on energy. But we really need to protect our ratepayers, and we need to protect our state from becoming a transmission line state and becoming a state where our goals for economic development and growth are going to be really constricted because we don't have access to affordable, reliable energy that comes from the use of one of nature's great gifts, which is natural gas, by the way, natural gas and fossil fuels. And so, Mr. President, my vote is going to be no. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further discussion? If not, third reading, final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 937, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to Special Order Calendar 47. We're trying to get these Senate bills over. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 930, Senator Guile, Environment Managed Aquifer Recharge Pilot Program Establishment. This bill is on third reading for final.
Senate Bill 930 is on third reading for final. Yes, I recognize the chair of the committee.
Yeah, Mr. President, the intent of this, the amendment the committee put on was to conform it to the House bill, and it turns out there was a bit of a technical issue with the drafting, so I'm hoping to move the bill back to second reader so I can put that technical fix in place.
Okay, no, okay. All right. Chair moves to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed third reading. Any objections to the motion? Without objection, the motion carries. The bill is now before us again on second reading and open to amendment. Chair has distributed an amendment. If we could just get it loaded up. All right, the committee, Senator explained the amendment as a conforming to the House. Any?
No, nothing beyond that. It just conforms to the House bill that's already, yeah,
All
exactly.
Right. Senators move the amendment. Are there any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 930 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, let's go to Senate third reading calendar 55. 55. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 3, Senator Ellis, Work Group on the Creation of a Data Dashboard for Public Work Contracts and Apprenticeship Establishment.
Senate Bill 3 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 3, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 486, Senator Lamb, School Health and Wellness, Personal Assessment, Maryland Council on Advancement of School-Based Health Centers.
Senate Bill 486 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 33 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 486, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 646, Senator Muse, Health Insurance, Insulin, Prohibition on Step Therapy or Fail First Protocols.
Senate Bill 646 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 646, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 676, Senator Guile, Healthcare Facilities, Hospitals, and Freestanding Birthing Centers, Perinatal Care Standards.
Senate Bill 676 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 676, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 691, Senator Hester, Healthcare Ecosystem Stakeholder Cybersecurity Work Group.
Senate Bill 691 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 39 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 691, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 988, Senator Lamb, Maryland Collaborative to Improve Children's Oral Health Through School-Based Programs, Establishment.
Senate Bill 988 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 988, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, these are amended bills that are going to need some work on the other side. This is third reading calendar 23, House bills amended. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 99, Delegate Rogers, Anne Arundel County, Class A, off-sale, and Class D, off-sale licenses, population ratio quota.
House Bill 99 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 99, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 107, Delegate Pruski, Consumer Protection, Automatic Renewals.
House Bill 107 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 107, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 333, Delegate Kerr, Healthcare Ecosystem Stakeholder Cybersecurity Work Group.
House Bill 333 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 38 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 333, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's get some of these administration ones here. We got the special order calendar number 46. It's a second reader, some second readers here. We'll do a few second readers, so if the folks have used the facilities or otherwise, we're going to try and get through some of these second readers, so just so everyone knows. All right, clerk will read the bill. Wait, yes. Clerk, read the bill.
House Bill 506, the Speaker, Chesapeake Bay Legacy Act. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
Question is on the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Recognize the minority leader has an committee amendment. Okay, let's take up the committee amendment quickly. The vice chair of the committee has a amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. While we're doing that, should we refresh people's memory as to what the bill does, or should we
Sure.
just wait?
Sure, please.
Do it in puns. This is an administration bill. It passed the committee unanimously, and it is an initiative that will work with the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Department of Energy of the Environment. It sets up standards for conservation, water quality, soil quality, and offers incentives to farmers to voluntarily participate in any of these programs. It also works to deal with federal standards and federal requirements, and I know that, and it streamlines some of the systems that happen now, and I know that the senator from Kent County may have some questions, or the senator from Carroll County, but this is an important bill that I look forward to explaining or moving forward. So this amendment, Mr. President, is a committee amendment that was an oversight and is just clarifying. So move adoption of the committee floor amendment.
All right, the vice chair moves for the adoption of the committee amendment. Recognize the minority whip on the amendment.
Mr. President, I was going to get up and sort of jokingly say I have a lot of questions now that we're explaining the bill, but I actually do wonder about, it's a committee amendment, it's somewhat technical, but I'm not too familiar with putting a percentage of administrative costs in every bill. I mean, we do it sometimes, but why 20% first? It seems a little high for a fund, or am I missing something?
So the fund is this new Leaders in Environmentally Engaged Farming, or LEAF, and we just want to make sure that most of the funding goes to our farmers who can voluntarily participate, but there are obviously overhead costs in everything that we do, and so it caps it at not more than 20%.
Okay, 20% is considered, I guess, somewhat of a good
Reasonable.
standard.
Yeah.
Okay. And just let me ask, where does the money come from for the fund?
That's a really good question. There have been some resources that were found, and it's $900,000 from the general fund.
Okay, but is it like grant? It's a grant, so it's one-time money?
It's each year that it's suggested that the governor put $900,000, a minimum of $900,000. And again, this is for fishery, water, soil, conservation. This covers a whole lot.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
All right. Question remains on the committee amendment. Any further discussion, objections? Without objection, the committee amendment is adopted. Recognize the minority leader has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. God bless you. All right, Senator may explain the amendment. May explain the
Senator
Shall
shall
explain the
the amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. We always wondered if you were actually reading everything or not, so obviously you are. So thank you very much, Mr. President. And this is simply a very simple amendment that in the area where it talks about what the department must do with different regulations, we are simply asking to change the word shall to may. And we thought this was important because, one, it becomes a little bit more consistent with the rest of the reports that come out. If you see further below, it's not on the amendment itself, but in the bill where it talks about further saying that the secretary then may adopt conservation and management measures, and the secretary then may adopt additional conservation. So rather than in one area of what the department must do in adopting regulations, we thought that to be a little bit more consistent, we just say that the department may adopt these regulations that are provided for fishery management plans developed by the department as supplemental plans prepared by the department. So it's just, again, about the information and the studies that are provided, management plans that are provided for different fisheries, and give the department some leeway in deciding whether or not they truly want to do this, or do they have some discretion and are not forced to having to adopt something that that is provided. So with that, Mr. President, I would move the amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Thank you, Senator. Recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we are going to resist this amendment. It was brought to the committee for consideration, and frankly, the sponsor of the amendment, of this identical amendment, ended up thinking better of it, and she didn't even bring it to the vote. And I'm going to say again, this passed unanimously out of committee, including with the sponsor of this amendment. This does not change the fact that the federal government has regulations that we have to follow. This would not change the fact that there is a lot of flexibility for farmers and fishing participants in how they do it. The Watermen's Caucus and fishing people were deeply involved in this and were helping to craft this bill. I should flag for you on pages 11 and 12, there were 25 different fish species that were originally going to be covered. There are only 7. So there are a lot of fish that are not even included in this, and the federal government is still has requirements, and the Department of Natural Resources can still engage, whether it's may or shall. They can still sue folks who are not in compliance, and then the conservation aspects are voluntary. So we are going to resist this amendment. Thank you.
All right. On the amendment, further discussion, recognize the minority whip.
Mr. President, just speaking more to the process so much than the amendment, although I do support the amendment, and I think we'd like a roll call vote on it. Somebody offering or not offering in committee, I mean, people can, we get amendments drafted all the time in committee, different members, and decide to offer or not. Doesn't mean it was really considered by the committee. But I think a may is usually a good idea in a lot of legislation that we're passing, especially considering the, which we all agree on this. We have some disagreements in this body, I think, on a few things, but we all agree there's a lot of uncertainty. So I think a may is usually a wiser way to go. So I support the gentleman's amendment.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee.
I think I said it just fine the first time.
Okay.
We oppose this. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 26 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 506 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Do we have, there we go. This is Special Order Calendar 49, the cross file. Clerk will read the bill.
Bill 428, the President, Chesapeake Bay Legacy Act. Question is the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, questions on the 4 committee amendments? Any discussion of the 4 committee amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. The floor leader has a committee amendment, which the pages will distribute. Senator May explain the amendment, conforming.
The 4 committee amendments made it identical to the House bill. This floor amendment makes it, again, identical to the House. It's the one we just passed. Move adoption of the committee floor amendment.
All right, the chair moves to the adoption of the committee floor amendment. Any discussion or objections? Without objection, the committee floor amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 428 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, let's go. Okay, we have some layover calendars that have been here for a bit. This is calendar 36. It's a Senate bill. Layover calendar 36. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 979, Senator Gazzone, Local Government Accommodations, Intermediaries, Hotel Rental Tax, collection by Comptroller. Question is on the adoption of the 3 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the 3 committee announcements. Any discussion of the committee announcements? Any objections?
Mr.
Yes,
Mr. President,
announcements, amendments. Ooh, yes.
I have an announcement about the committee amendments.
Yes.
If I want to substitute amendments, Mr. President, is this the best time to do it?
Now would be the appropriate time. Senator
Okay.
moves to withdraw the committee amendments and introduce substitute amendments. The pages will collect and distribute the substitute amendments. Give us just a moment. All right, Senator may explain the substitute amendments.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm going to explain the substitute amendments, and then I'll explain the bill, and then we can I'll move adoption of the favorable committee report. So, colleagues, this is actually a mixture of many different bills that some of my colleagues from other jurisdictions wanted in. Mr. President, the substitute amendments, Amendment 1 just makes changes to the title of the bill and purpose paragraph, function paragraph. Amendment 2 makes technical and clarifying changes to the bill and authorizes the comptroller to collect a certain administrative fee. And really, the only change to the amendments that was adopted by the Budget and Taxation Committee is Amendment number 3. And it's just changing the schedule. So, Mr. President, what Senate Bill 979 does is it just establishes a centralized method for collecting local accommodation taxes. We've been doing it, but this is making sure that every jurisdiction in the state is able to collect the tax. There was a bill put in by Talbot County and in Washington County and other jurisdictions in the state. We folded all of that into this bill, and I appreciate my colleagues' partnership on that. So this is making sure that there's tax equity, and with that, the bill takes effect on July 1st. I would move the 3 committee amendments. Well, I'd move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the substitute committee amendments. Recognize Senator from Maine Arundel on the amendments.
Just a quick question. So
Sure.
this just
Senator,
changed the method. It's not increasing or enabling more taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, it's just basically setting up a method and a schedule, quite frankly, too. And this is supported by the counties and certainly supported by our colleagues who have asked me to make sure that that's included in this omnibus bill, if you will.
All right. Any further discussion of the substitute committee amendments? Recognize the senator from the 37th on the committee amendments.
Thank you. Just
Substitute amendments, excuse me.
Yeah, just a quick. So this would change the process, though. I know the Talbot bill was the timing on when they collect, and that's the county. The county collects those taxes. But the way this would change the system, where the comptroller would then be responsible for collecting the tax, and then would submit the money back to the county. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm actually able to talk in the capacity of having been a former comptroller employee. This is providing really a one point of contact. That way, the counties know that they need to go to the comptroller, and the comptroller will help disperse it. So yeah, and it's also, as you had put, it's also creating a system-wide schedule, so that way everyone's on the same schedule.
And then did MACO support that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, Senator, great point. As amended, there's no opposition, and I really appreciate the chairman of the committee, because as we always do in B&T, or we often do, we bring stakeholders together and try to come up with the best product.
Oh, thank you.
All right. On the substitute amendments, the minority leader.
Thank you very much.
Question for the floor?
You know what, I could actually wait till the amendment's adopted and then ask on the amended bill.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, question is on the substitute amendments. Any further discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the substitute committee amendments are adopted. Questions on the amended report. Recognize the minority leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The floor leader would yield,
Floor to
please.
yield. Senator, may proceed.
Just, again, I did not take a lot of time to look at this, but just had a quick question on the very beginning of the bill, page 3, when they talk about defining a hotel means an establishment that offers sleeping accommodations for compensation. A short-term rental unit, has that been added? Is that new policy that we are now adopting?
So a couple things. One is there's 2 bills that were passed and we passed in the past and are now law. They really establish what the criteria is for accommodation. This is ensuring that right now you have Airbnb, but you have smaller accommodations that haven't been necessarily paying their fair share or paying tax on. So this is just making sure that it holds everyone in the same posture.
So an Airbnb, I understand, you would pay a normal sales tax, sales and usage fee, but now, is this bill now applying
each
a
county
hotel tax to it?
I mean, each county establishes their own rate, so that shouldn't change that. That's based on what, it shouldn't change the rate at all. It's based on what the counties currently charge.
Okay, maybe just answer this. Does a short-term rental now have to pay a hotel tax?
A short-term rental, if it coincides with the Wayfair decision, if it's within that criteria, they would. But right now we're just making sure that there's equity across the board. But it doesn't change what the counties would be charging.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further, yes, Senator from the 37th on the report.
Yeah, I just want to clarify on the change. So the comptroller will collect the short-term rentals.
Question for the floor leader. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Senator, may proceed.
Yeah. I'm always too quick. I apologize. I get the order out.
That's right. I thought you were talking to the chair.
Yeah. I apologize. No, just one point of clarification though. So the comptroller is going to collect the accommodations tax from the short-term rentals, and then the hotel accommodation tax, those will still be collected by the counties.
Yeah, and then they're all going to be dispersed to the counties.
Thank you.
All right. Further discussion on the report as amended? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 979 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to layover calendar 37. 37, clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 96, Senator Brooks, Environment Water Bottle Filling Stations Requirement. Question is in the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the 2 committee amendments. Any discussion of the 2 committee amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 96 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's start with the Senate Bill layover calendar number 39. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 118, Senator Waldstreicher, Motor Vehicles, Speed Monitoring Systems, Penalties. Question is on the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Yes, recognize the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have an amendment.
Yes, just give us one moment. On the report and amended report, any discussion or objections? Without objection, the amended favorable committee report is amended is adopted. The bill sponsor and Vice Chair has a committee amendment. The pages will distribute the amendment. All right, right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's late, but before I explain the amendment, let me thank the chair from Anne Arundel, the senator from Anne Arundel, the senator from Prince George's, the good senator from Baltimore County, as well as our chair who convened everyone together. This amendment strikes a portion of the amended bill which dealt with the radius around school zones and instead substitutes a work group that will recommend best practices for these cameras when they are in school zones. I move the committee amendment.
All right, the floor leader moves for the, moves the floor amendment. Any discussion of the amendment? Any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 118 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's go to the House Bill number 4, labor calendar number 40.
House Bill 182, Delegate Stewart, Motor Vehicles, Speed Monitoring Systems, Penalties. Question is the adoption of the 3 committee amendments in the favorable report.
All right, question is on the 3 committee amendments in the favorable report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. I recognize the vice chair of the committee has, I suspect, an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Excellent. All right, pages will distribute the amendment. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is identical to the amendment we just adopted on the Senate version of the bill.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Any discussion or objection? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 182 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, we're going to Finance. The Chair of Finance is going to be very pleased to finally be moving along these folders. We're going to start with report number 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 848, Delegate Pena-Melnick, Health Insurance Adverse Decisions, Notices, Reporting, and Examinations, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually found the file on this pile of files on my desk. So House Bill 848 is similar to Senate Bill 474, which unanimously passed the Senate. The bill explains the required contents of the notice carriers must provide to members and others when the carrier renders a non-emergency adverse decision or grievance decision. The quarterly appeals and grievances reports submitted by carriers must include information aggregated by zip code and specified information if the number of adverse decisions issued by a carrier for a type of service has grown by a specified amount. The bill also requires a private review agent to have a direct telephone number and a monitored email address dedicated to utilization review. Lastly, required notices must include a unique identifier rather than a name for a medical director or other employee responsible for the adverse decision. Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 alters the effective date for certain provisions of the bill and clarifies posting requirements on private review agents' websites and timeframes for responding to voicemails and emails. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee, 2 amendments in the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 848 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 850, Delegate Williams, Work Group on the Creation of a Data Dashboard for Public Work Contracts and Apprentices, established, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognize the senator from the 28th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 850, colleagues, is similar to Senate Bill 3, which is under consideration by the Senate. The bill establishes the work group on the creation of a data dashboard for public work contracts and apprentices to study and make recommendations regarding the most efficient and cost-effective method to create a publicly available dashboard that disaggregates information regarding public work contracts with the state. The 1 amendment adds 3 additional members to the work group. Mr. President, I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objection? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 850 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 869, Delegate Pena-Melnick, Preserve Telehealth Access Act of 2025, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognizing Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 869, as amended, is similar to Senate Bill 372, which unanimously passed the Senate. The bill makes permanent the provisions of law specifying that telehealth includes audio-only telephone conversations between a healthcare provider and a patient, resulting in a billable covered healthcare service for both Medicaid and commercial health insurance. Amendment 1 is technical. The committee made Amendment 2 to restore the prohibition on healthcare providers prescribing opioids through telehealth and provides an additional exception when there is an ongoing bona fide provider-patient relationship that included an in-person assessment. There was no opposition in the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 869 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 970, Delegate Woods, Health Insurance, Insulin, Prohibition on Step Therapy or Fail First Protocols, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognize the Senator from District 12 as the floor leader.
House Bill 970, as amended, is the same as Senate Bill 646, which is under consideration by the committee. The bill prohibits carriers from imposing a step therapy or fail first protocol for insulin or an insulin analog if it is used to treat type 1, type 2, or gestational diabetes. There is an amendment. It specifies that the prohibition also applies to an insulin analog. Move the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 970 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. I looked over and all of a sudden the minority whip got a lot more Italian. I was like very confused as to what was happening. All right, clerk, read the next bill. Sorry.
House Bill 1045, Delegate Pena-Melnick, Health Insurance, Family Planning Services, Confidentiality of Medical Records, Consumer Protections, Updates, favorable.
All right, recognize the Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1045 updates references to federal law related to family planning services, grandfathered plans, explanation of benefits, summaries of benefits and coverage, medical loss ratios, catastrophic plans, annual limits for cost sharing, prescription drugs and rescissions to December 31st, 2024. Adopted regulations necessary to carry out enforcement provisions must be consistent with federal statute, rules, and guidance in effect on December 31st, 2024. Also, the bill alters definitions of legally protected health care and sensitive health services for the purpose of permitting the Secretary of Health to issue privacy regulations related to protected health information in health information exchanges and electronic health networks. There are no amendments. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1045 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1095, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Alcoholic Beverages, Beauty Salon and Barbershop License, MC 3-25, favorable.
Recognize the chair of the committee. We can. It's all right without the file. I think there we go. Recognize the vice chair of the committee.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. HB 1095. Is a local alcohol bill that expands and renames the beauty salon beer and wine license as the beauty salon and barbershop beer, wine, and liquor license in Montgomery County. License holders may provide up to 1.7 ounces of liquor or 5 to 12 ounces of beer for on-premises consumption by a beauty salon or barbershop customer. The bill has the support of Montgomery County Senate delegation. There are no amendments. I move the adoption of favorable committee report.
All right, the floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1095 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Senators, we are just waiting for the budget conference report. So whenever that comes, we're going to read it across to get the conference committee started, and then we're going to call it. So we'll see. Should be soon-ish, but we're going to, we're going to take up any of the bills that have amendments on them on second readers to just get those in a ripe position, I guess. So let's move to education, energy, and the environment. This is report number 30. Has some amended bills on here. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 25, Chair, Environment and Transportation. Environment Reservoir Augmentation Permit Establishment, favorable with one amendment.
Recognizing the Senator from District 9 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, House Bill 25 is identical to Senate Bill 265 as it passed the Senate 45-1. This departmental bill creates the Reservoir Augmentation Program in the Maryland Department of the Environment and establishes related provisions. There is one committee amendment which conforms it to its Senate cross-file. I move the committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 25 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 40, Chair, Environment and Transportation Committee, Natural Resources, Fishing License, Stamps, Alterations, favorable.
Recognize Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 40 is identical to Senate Bill 258 as it passed the Senate. This departmental bill increases fees for senior sport fishing licenses, angler licenses, and trout stamps, and repeals the trout stamp exemption for senior sport fishing licensees. These fees directly support the management of recreational freshwater fisheries. Mr. President, there are no committee amendments on this one. Move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 40 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 272, Chair, Environment and Transportation Committee, Maryland Department of Planning, Modernization, favorable.
House Bill 272, oh, excuse me. We need a floor leader.
Mr. President, can we special order this? What's that? Okay, never mind here. Okay, House Bill 272 is nearly identical to Senate Bill 236 as unanimously passed by the Senate. This departmental bill makes various updates to state law relating to election precinct boundary data, county water supply, sewerage and solid waste disposal plans, population projections, real property information, obsolete reporting requirements, capital facilities, planning information and access, authorized funding for regional planning projects, and geographical classification standards. There were no committee amendments, Mr. President, no fiscal impact. And with that, I'd move the favorable committee report on House Bill 272.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 272 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 268, Chair, Environment and Transportation, Local Comprehensive Planning and State Economic Growth, Resource Protection and Planning Policy, Planning Principles, favorable.
Recognize Senator from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 286 is nearly identical to Senate Bill 266 as unanimously passed by the Senate. There is one slight difference. This Senate cross-file includes through the inclusion of language under the ecology planning principle that speaks to the conservation of certain natural resources. There are no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 286 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 325, Delegate Weems, Adult Education High School Diploma by Examination Requirements and Study, favorable with one amendment.
All right, recognizing the senator from the 43rd is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1180 improves access to high school diplomas for adult learners by ensuring that individuals can choose to take all or part of the GED exam in English or Spanish. There's one committee amendment which changes the effective date from October 1st to July 25th. This bill is the cross-file of Senate Bill 451, which this body voted unanimously in support in early session in February. I move for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 325 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 932, Delegate Corman, Public Ethics, Conflict of Interest, and Blind Trust. Governor, favorable.
Recognized Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This piece of legislation, which passed the House of Delegates 139-0, requires the governor within 6 months of taking oath of office to, number one, place all of the governor's interests in a blind trust except those exempted by the State Ethics Commission. Number two, divest interests that the commission determines may pose a conflict of interest. The commission must adopt regulations that, among other things, establish standards and requirements for exempting the governor's interest from the blind trust requirement. The commission must publish on its website any blind trust agreement, non-participation agreement, and financial disclosures regarding the governor's interests. Business entities in which the governor or specified restricted individuals hold interests as specified must disclose those interests to the commission if the business seeks to obtain a state grant, competitive award, or contract. Finally, Mr. President, the bill establishes a fine for non-compliance by the governor and penalties for business entities that fail to comply with the disclosure requirements. Mr. President, there were no committee amendments, and with all that, I'd move the adoption of the favorable committee report, and happy to take some questions.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Recognize the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield for question?
Yes,
Senator
sir.
may proceed.
Thank you. So does this apply to the current and future governors, or just future governors?
Well, it's not going to, let me look at I don't have my committee counsel here. I think it's prospective. I don't believe it would, I don't have the effective date here. Hold on a second.
I'm assuming it's prospective only because I think you'd have to allow for. Probably have to. I assume so, yeah.
I mean, there's an effective date on there. I'm going to get committee counsel. I don't have the reprint right in front of me here.
Effective date.
Okay, actually, I've got crack whip senator from.
It's prospective.
Prospectively, yeah.
So would it be if there was a second term, if this governor currently has, I know this is about just the issue in general, but if this governor has a second term, he would be required to comply then?
It's a second term. Yeah, just repeat it one more time.
Yeah, if the current governor would be the governor for another term, would he be required to required?
Yes.
Okay, no, that's good.
And I should have added the bill did pass unanimously out of the committee, 139-0.
I did notice that. I did notice that. I am not going to carry a brief for, we definitely love transparency. Was there a question of how blind trusts have been allowed up till now? Is my understanding the previous governor, there had been an agreement worked out with the Ethics Commission. I know there's always been talk about blind trusts and all that, but there was an Ethics Commission agreement because you hadn't had a governor who had a bunch of business interest at that the way that he had. So I always felt like sometimes the word blind trust gets thrown around as this dirty word, but
right, it's pretty specific if you look in the bill. As to what constitutes, and this requires it. The difference is in the past you could do it on a voluntary basis, but in this case, you have to appoint, the governor shall appoint a trustee at a financial institution or organization that has a minimum of 2 years experience, trust management activities. The blind trust itself, I think, has to be approved by the Ethics Commission. They have to assign that it's a legitimate blind trust meeting a number certain criteria. I think they're actually going to also promulgate regulations. So
And there's some restricted individuals too. I see in the
absolutely.
bill.
So it's
Okay.
not just the governor here. In terms of, you know, if somebody wants to apply for a grant, et cetera, or some government contract, there's going to be a disclosure requirement that if the governor has an ownership interest or one of the enumerated restricted individuals on there, which is laid out pretty clearly in the bill, that will have to be disclosed. Again, none of that exists under current law. So I
Right.
think this is good governance,
Yep.
bipartisan.
Great.
Avoid the appearance of conflict of interest.
We're 100% with you. We'll probably be talking about that issue some in the coming day or two on some other things as well. So thank you very much.
All right. On the favorable committee report, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 932 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1122, Delegate Feldmark, Office of Child Care Advisory Council, membership alterations, favorable.
Oh, yes, recognize the senator from the 41st District.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill adds a representative of the Maryland Association of Public Library Administrators to the Office of Child Care Advisory Council. There are no amendments, there's no fiscal impact, and I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1122 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right. We have a message from the House. We have a message from the House. Clerk will read the first message.
House Bill 350, the Speaker, Budget Bill Fiscal Year 2026, by the Majority Leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House that appoints Delegate Barnes, Chair, Delegate Shetty, Delegate Smith, Delegate Watson, and Delegate Stonko. In addition, the House has appointed in advisory capacity Delegates Chang, Solomon, J. Lewis, and Forbes. Said bill is returned to air with, by order, Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
All right. Message having been read is ordered journalized. Clerk, read the next message.
Message to the House of Delegates by the Majority Leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, House Bill 350, the Speaker Budget Bill. The Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Barnes, Chairman, Delegate Shetty, Delegate Smith, Delegate Watson, and Delegate Stonko. In addition, the House has appointed in advisory capacity Delegates Chang, Solomon, J. Lewis, and Forbes. The Senate has appointed Senator Gazzone, Chair, Senator McCray, Senator King, Senator M. Jackson, and Senator Quarterman. In addition, the Senate has appointed in advisory capacity Senators Bailey, Zucker, and Hedelman. Said bill is returned air with, by order, Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is adopted. We now have an additional message. This is a message to the Senate from the House. The clerk will read the message.
Message to the Senate, House Bill 352, the Speaker Budget Reconciliation Financing Act of 2025. By the Majority Leader, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the House of Delegates refuses to concur in the Senate amendments and respectfully requests the Senate recede from its position. Should the Senate prefer a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses, the House appoints Delegate Barnes, Chair, Delegate Atterbury, Delegate Watson, Delegate Chang, Delegate J. Lewis. In addition, the House has appointed in advisory capacity Delegates Smith, Feldmark, Heinbaugh, and Shetty. Said bill is returned air with, by order, Sylvia Siegert, Chief Clerk.
Message having been read is ordered journalized. Let's now read the message from the Senate to the House.
Message to the House of Delegates by the Majority Leader. Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, House Bill 352, the Speaker Budget Reconciliation Funding Act of 2025. The Senate does not recede in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Barnes, Chairman, Delegate Atterbury, Delegate Watson, Delegate Chang, and Delegate J. Lewis. In addition, the House has appointed in advisory capacity Delegates Smith, Feldmark, Heinbaugh, and Shetty. The Senate appoints Senator Gazzone, Chair, Senator Rosapep, Senator Hedelman, Senator Benson, and Senator Jennings. In addition, the Senate has appointed in advisory capacity Senators Salling, M. Jackson, and Lewis Young. Said bill is returned air with, by order, Nicole Alexander, Secretary.
Message having been read is ordered adopted. Yes, recognized Senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. A point of, I guess, a question here.
Senator, may proceed.
I noticed that the House conferees do not include any member of the minority party on the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. Is that okay?
The conference committees on all bills are set by the presiding officers. So,
okay. There is one on the House committee. I didn't hear any minority party members on the House committee.
I can't speak to the other chamber.
I see. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. I think that is going to do it for the day. That is going to do it for the day. All right. We're in a pretty decent spot. We're gonna have to plow through tomorrow morning on a number of unamended pieces of legislation, but we're in a decent spot. Not great, but decent. Let's go ahead and see any committee announcements. 10. Any other standing committees, select committees, delegations? How long a session? Tomorrow? Ugh. We're going to try for one, but I don't want to promise anything. We'll try for one. It'd be best if we can do one plow through. We'll try. Actually, yeah, we'll see. Look, we'll do the best we can. All right. Any other announcements before we adjourn? If not, let's go ahead and do a quorum call.
Mr. President,
has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 44 members of the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Wednesday, April 2nd at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. tomorrow. Excellent. Without objection, so ordered. Have a safe night. Onwards we go.